if you're thinking, what if I do something like this? Or what if I change this? Don't think what if, just do it and you'll find out. And if it's supposed to be, it's going to be. But if it's not supposed to be, you've tried it and you'll never wonder in your life ever again about what if.
Welcome to What Was, What Next. This is a podcast about the seasons of change that shape our lives. I'm Hina Thacker, and in each episode, I sit down with someone who has stepped away from what once was, be it a career, a role, a relationship, an identity, and is now finding their way through the uncertain space of what comes next. These are not stories of perfect reinvention. They're honest conversations about the in-between seasons, the moments when the old life no longer fits and the new one hasn't fully formed. If you're navigating a transition of your own, you're not alone here. There are many of us who have navigated through those same waters. So let's begin the conversation for today. Welcome everybody to What Was and What Next. Today my guest is a friend and a colleague, Priya. We've worked together for many years and we've now moved in different directions, but I really wanted to invite Priya onto the podcast so that we can have a conversation about what's been happening in her world, and I think you'll find it really interesting. So Priya, welcome.
Hi,
To the
thank you for
podcast.
having me.
It's been, Priya, we've known each other for years, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we reconnected again.
Yes.
Properly, a proper conversation in the pub a few weeks ago. And a lot's been happening in your world since I last sat down and spoke with you properly. So do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, whatever you want the listener to know?
Yeah, I guess just the basics of me. I'm 43, mum of 3 boys. I've been married for 16 years. I'm an optometrist and have been qualified for 21 years, and I'm now an online business owner.
Interesting. So you're doing both?
I'm doing both at the moment, yes. It's always good to start something new when you've still got something steady, I think. It's just safer that way. And then I'm going to see where it takes me.
So from what you said, I sense that obviously something shifted that makes you want to change your work, change what you're doing, to change from being purely an optometrist to being a business owner. So tell us what work was like, or what was happening before this shift, this desire to change came about.
So I think, life just keeps going, right? You just live every day and it's always the same, and you don't realise that the years go past and you blink and 21 years have gone past and I've been in the same situation. I've been working the same job, the same career, day in, day out, doing the same things. And when you have a family, you just kind of slot that into it. And I guess it's very similar to many other people where you build this life for yourself and you're always taught to work hard, get an education, get the job, get your paychecks, have a family, and that's life. And that's basically everything that I followed. So I was there and I was living that. But I think I ended up becoming really robotic at it and I didn't realise. So 21 years went past and I had a family, but with everything that was added into my life, it was creating more pressure that it was hidden pressure. I didn't know about it. And I was burning out. And I didn't realise I was burning out until a huge life-changing something happened to me 3 years ago now. And it snapped me out of that hamster wheel that I was on. And it just made me, it's almost like the light turned on. And I realised that 21 years have just gone past and I've just been doing the same thing day in, day out. And I've just wasted 21 years of my life. And that's what made me open my eyes.
So you said something life-changing happened. When that happened, Priya, what questions, if you like, did you start asking yourself, or what did you begin to know? You said you got the realization, but how did you know that this was a realization, if you like? What was going on?
So I think it's a really hard thing to explain because it was a major health scare and I almost lost my life at that point. And I think it's such a drastic thing to happen in your life that you just think to yourself, well, there's so many emotions involved when you realize that's just happened that it kind of shocks you into really analyzing where you are and what you've done. So I think those feelings of it was shock, it was disbelief of how I've been living, and also just a realization that life is so short that you really have to make the most of it. And if you're just going through the motions, that's not making the most of life. You're not then living for yourself, you're living for everybody else around you. And you're doing things that everyone else needs, but not what you need. So I think those feelings started to crop up at the same time that I was dealing with the emotional situation of going through what's just happened. It was all at the same time. So it was quite a load of emotions that just bombarded me internally. And I had to sort through them one at a time. And as I did that, the realization that I just wasted so much of my time and my life doing something I was told and taught to do when I was younger, it just wasn't the right thing for me anymore.
And so you said that you had to sort through the emotions and come to this realization that it wasn't the way you'd been living, wasn't the way you wanted to continue to live. Yeah, how did you communicate that to other people, to your loved ones? Yeah, talk about that. Tell us about that.
I don't think that at the beginning I could, because I was really confused myself. It takes a long time to understand what you're thinking internally before you can portray it to other people or even articulate it to other people. Those are very difficult things, especially when they're emotions that people don't understand unless they've been through it themselves. So it was really hard, and I don't think that I actually talked about it outwardly much to anyone. Because for me, I had to get it straight in my own head first. And then I think I kind of skipped the whole telling people about it and I just went straight onto action. And the action spoke louder than my words. So I think just going into action was what showed everyone that how I was feeling.
Yeah. So you said that you didn't tell anybody. Can I ask you, what did anything feel risky about telling people before you kind of went into the action mode?
I think I just knew people wouldn't understand, or I believed they wouldn't understand, because they'd seen me live one way for so long, and then suddenly to change, they wouldn't understand why I was changing, but also they also wouldn't understand the emotion of it either, because I don't know anyone else who's been in my position, my situation at that time especially. So it was very much the unknown, which is scary because you don't know how people are going to react. So it's safer to just keep it inside.
Yeah. And you know, that's a really kind of important marker in the ground, if you like, that we often feel that I'm probably the only one because I don't know anybody else in this situation. And I think that's why people like yourself who are courageous enough to come on things like podcasts and talk about your story will actually go on to help others to not feel as alone. So I'm interested in knowing why we, as high-performing individuals in that traditional way of describing somebody who's done well in life, if you like, why we feel perhaps that people wouldn't understand us. And is it that they wouldn't understand if you told them? Because that almost puts it on them.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm interested to know, Priya, what was going on for you that makes you or made you believe that you couldn't articulate what you wanted to do, or talk about you. What's going on for you?
I think maybe it was a protective thing more than anything else. We say people don't understand, but that is also a protective phrase to use, because they may understand, but you want to hear their thoughts because you've already decided what you're going to do and what you want to do. And I think going through life, and you know, especially as a child, as a teenager, as a young adult, you want to do things, and when you articulate what you want to do, there will be someone who says, you can't do that. Why are you doing that? That's crazy thinking. And it kind of stops you in your tracks, and sometimes you'll do it and sometimes you won't, because of what somebody said. So maybe part of me thought, well, I want to do this, but if I open it up to everybody, someone's going to say to me that I can't do it, and that will put doubt inside me, and then I won't do it. And I've lived that way. And my point is that I don't want to live that way anymore.
Yeah. What do you think happened to you, Priya, that gave you that? Because when you're protecting yourself using the way you described it, you consider yourself in some kind of danger, because that's when you need protection. What was the danger that you were protecting yourself?
I think the biggest danger was that I wouldn't do what I wanted to do. And that's a big thing, because that was the change I wanted. And so if I didn't make the change I wanted, my life would stay the same. And that was a big no for me at that time. And it still is. I never want to be the same as that again.
Yeah. And what did that period of time feel like, Priya, for you, when you were wrestling with this internally? You were in protection mode and you wanted to put this newer version of yourself out in the world.
Mm-hmm. It was hard internally, because there are so many thoughts going on, and some of those thoughts, they're truths about yourself, that you have to be honest with yourself, and you have to realise where you've gone wrong in life, where you've gone right in life, and you have to really put it all out there for yourself. Because if you can't analyse how you've been, how are you going to change? What are you going to change? What bits do you like and what bits do you not like? Because you want to create a life that you're living for yourself and you're happy with, as well as still incorporating the closest people around you. So there was a lot of, a reflection, I suppose, on myself. But the thing is, when I did all of that, I learnt so much more about myself. I learnt that I had courage. I learnt that I was strong enough to do the things I wanted to do. And I learnt that I could give myself permission. No one else needed to give me permission to do what I needed to do. I could give myself that permission. So although it was really hard going through all those emotions and sorting them out, it's actually made me personally grow and develop so much that I feel internally that I'm a much stronger person than I was before.
Find that strength, Priya. What does that actually mean? I was a stronger person. What does that mean?
I had more self-belief. Yeah. I could really think more positively. Mm-hmm. And I could stand my ground in my head. You know that you have situations, everyone has these situations, where you think something, and someone else thinks something else, and it makes you doubt yourself. Whereas I know what I'm thinking now, so I won't doubt myself, because I have the belief in myself, and I just know I just see my future so clearly that nobody's going to stop me, because inside I've built up that strength and that courage and that, love for myself.
It sounds like the 21 years, although they were beautiful, you have a career, you have a loving husband, you have children. So it's not to diss any of what went on before.
No, not at all.
But it's to say, because of all of that, this is where I am now, and this is how I want to live my life going forward.
Life is a learning curve. Everything teaches you something, but the problem is that most of us are blind to all the lessons, and we just keep going until something makes you stop and look back and actually learn from life. And I think that's where I'm at. I'm learning I'm taking in all the lessons I've taught myself through my life without even realising it.
Yeah. Priya, can I ask you, what fundamentally do you think is different about how you show up for yourself and out in the world? The past 21 years before this new direction, who were you then and who are you now?
I've always been a pleaser. I like to please everyone. I like to do things the way people want me to do them. I like to make people happy. And I think I was really good at that. But I never pleased myself and never made myself happy. I always put myself on the back burner because I thought what was the right thing to do and what I wanted to do was to help other people, please other people. But I forgot that that only works when you're pleasing yourself and helping yourself at the same time. You can do both. I didn't know that before. And now I know that because I am pleasing myself and I'm helping myself. And I'm doing things for myself before I do things for others.
And to the people might say, well, you're thinking about yourself first. And, to somebody who admits to being a pleaser, how does it sit with you to actually think about yourself? And what would you say to those people that go, well, you weren't like this before?
I wasn't my best self before. I can still be that person. I can just be a better version of that person, a more grounded version of that person. So it might sound possibly to some people it's selfish, but to give yourself fully to others, you have to be steady in yourself because you only have one life.
So you used one word, pleaser. I know I keep on going on about it, but I think it would really be helpful for the listeners maybe. You were a pleaser. How would you describe yourself in 1 or 2 words now?
Do you know, I don't know. I don't know yet. I think I'm still a pleaser, but just I'm a wiser pleaser. I'm a better pleaser. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Something along those lines, maybe.
Yeah. I have discovered a term, Priya, a phrase that I have been using, which is kind of it's discernment. It's almost luminous discernment. It's like, you shone a light inside of yourself because of the situation that you found yourself in. And it was inward facing. And then you have this discernment. So you're still going to do things for people. You're still going to be a loving mother. You're still going to do the stuff that you want to do. But there's a discernment about it. It's like, okay, if I choose that career, is it because it lights me up as well as lighting other people up? And if it doesn't light me up, I'm not going to continue to do it. Whereas the other version of us before this moment of change, if you like, might not even have believed that it was okay for us to be lit up by what we were doing.
I also think it's a bit of an injustice as well to people. Like you're doing things for other people because sometimes that's what they want to hear. That's what they want someone to say to them. But it's an injustice to them because if you're just doing it for their benefit, you might be aiding in them not progressing. So if you're doing it from a place where you're completely grounded and you have your own self-belief, you can actually give what you really think to them and you can help them in a way that will really help them because you're not doing it for any other reason apart from aiding them.
Yeah. That's a lot of self-awareness there, isn't there, Priya? So you've clearly thought about this a lot. As you said, you've worked on yourself. And so you said you're an entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do? If you want to share.
I work in the travel space and I work by helping other people become entrepreneurs.
Okay.
So I give them a vehicle.
Yeah.
To
and it lights you up.
Absolutely. It's the one thing I found that I'm allowed to grow myself and grow others at the same time. I don't think I've ever come across anything like that yet.
That sounds good. Your voice definitely lifted a little bit when you said that. So before you arrived at this, from when you made the decision, something's got to change, and you arrived at this business, were there any false starts, or did you think I'm going to do this, but it didn't quite work out? Or because you said it's the one thing I found where I can help myself and help others. So I just wanted to know, had you tried other things?
I hadn't really tried other things, but I had looked into other things, and a lot of the other things I was looking into was again related to what I already knew. So I'm in healthcare, so I was looking down that route of healthcare, but more holistic approach to healthcare. And also more something that I could have my own business in. But you had to go back and you had to study and you had to do all of that. And at the point I was at, I'm 43 years old. I now know how short life is. I don't want to waste any more time. I just want to get going. I don't want to study anymore, and I don't want to build something from the ground up, because I want to enjoy the life that I have left. And it's that I want things really fast now, because I don't want to lose the rest of my life doing something that I love.
That there's almost a path that was laid out for you. You will go to school, then you'll do this, then you'll do that, then you'll do the next. And it's almost like you're moving down this other path now, and you may not have full clarity, because that's the nature of business. It's not a 9 to 5. There's no guaranteed fixed paycheck at the end of the month. There's a lot of uncertainty in the path that you've chosen to embrace. What inside of you, Priya, is helping you to move forward on that path? Maybe even without that kind of clarity that if you're doing a 9 to 5, you have.
I think it's very exciting. It's a very exciting thing to do something that's brand new and that you don't actually know where it's going to take you, but the opportunity is so wide and you could go down multiple different avenues with it. And I think that's just, you have to have excitement in life, because otherwise what's the point in having life, right?
Yeah.
You can't just keep going down the same old thing, because it's not adventurous, it's not exciting. You have to feel all the emotions of life, not just safety. And I also think that that's why it's so important when you're doing something new, is to start it alongside something that you've already got, which is stable, because that makes it more feasible, I think. Gives you that blanket, that comfort blanket and that cushion that, you know, some months it might not be great, but then that's okay, because you have a backup plan. What you've been doing all your life ends up being your backup plan.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because that's quite important, isn't it? You didn't, because sometimes you can get paralyzed by the lack if you just suddenly give everything up and start something new and it doesn't quite land straight away. So this kind of cushion and the backup plan, as you say, gives you, that's probably forms part of the courage that you have to go and try something new.
Yeah, I mean, it's never easy to try something new if you've got nothing already, but then again, I say that, but what's the worst that can happen is you're just back to where you were before. But it's less stressful if you've got something already.
Yeah. There's this fantastic quote that I have on my phone, and it's Christopher Robin's Winnie the Pooh said it, but it was like, you know, it says, "Come to the edge, but I might fall. Come to the edge, because you might actually fly."
Well, yeah, exactly.
And that would be wonderful. Priya, tell me, if you look back over this period of, you know, transition that you've had, what do you understand now that you might not have seen but you started anyway? Or what would you say to somebody who's perhaps at that edge that might help them if they're listening to this?
Well, I think if we're thinking about that edge, and if you've got something inside you that's niggling away and you don't know what it is, but you want to understand what that feeling is, or you're curious, just do it. Like, I think I never just did it before. And that's the most important thing in life, is if there's something that you're curious about, or if there's a what if in your head, if you're thinking, what if I do something like this? Or what if I change this? Don't think what if, just do it and you'll find out. And if it's supposed to be, it's going to be. But if it's not supposed to be, you've tried it and you'll never wonder in your life ever again about what if.
It's fantastic insight, Priya. One other question that comes to mind. At the beginning of the conversation, you said that you didn't necessarily feel you could articulate what you wanted to do, and you did a lot of work on yourself. Did you have help with that? What tools, who was in your corner? What was the mechanism by which you got to this stage?
I think since childhood, I've always been quite good at self-therapizing myself. I've always been quite good at talking to myself. So I think that does help if you have that in you. So I did a hell of a lot of that, so much of that. And I just made sure that I tried to go deeper and deeper. But I love listening to self-help podcasts.
Mm-hmm.
I love listening to people's stories and how they've come out of situations. I just like hearing people's versions of how they deal with things, because actually you can take a lot from that and you can learn from that. And those situations that other people have, it's not going to be the same as yours, but the feelings and the emotions can be applied to so many things in life. And I think if you just stop and listen to people's stories, it gives you quite a lot of help, therapy, if you take it in.
Well, on that note, Priya, I think that people listening to your story will also get some of that inspiration, and that helps. So thank you for that. I mean, these spaces that we find ourselves in, the what if space, they're not always easy to articulate, and thank you so much for being so open and offering something meaningful to people listening in. I'm really grateful for you, and I'm grateful for the courage that you are just showing every day, showing up for yourself, Priya.
You're welcome, and thank you so much for letting me talk.
No, as I said to you at the beginning, if this helps one person, it's a great conversation for what is it, Sunday morning today.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Thank you.
So that was what next, and please drop us any comments if you've got any thoughts on the episode, if you've got any questions, and we will catch you next time. Thank you so much for listening to What Was, What Next. Every story that we share here is a reminder that life moves in seasons, and that the space between what was and what comes next is not a failure, but part of the journey. So if this conversation resonated with you, please do share it with someone who might need to hear it as well. Until next time, take care of yourselves in whatever season you're in. And remember, the season that makes no sense today may be the one that shapes the future for you. So embrace it in all its glory. Till next time.